We're in the restaurant sleeping parking lot. Blankets pulled up to our eyeballs. Trying to wrap our brains around the fact that we smell barbecue ribs, but the last thing we ate was dry oatmeal 4 hours ago, which was lunch, dinner, and tomorrow's breakfast. But we take our wins where we can get them because at least we're warm. So it's quiet. The restaurant people are living their best lives with their racks of ribs. And finally, we get to power down for the night. Then BAM! A flashlight shines into the window. Then banging on the window. This is it. It's over. We're about to be murdered. So while we're tearing ourselves new buttholes, my brain's like, well, at least you'll die famous because Netflix is about to be all up in this with a true crime documentary about us. Everybody has a dirty little secret. Mine had 4 wheels, no bathroom, and the nerve to call itself temporary. I'm Mika, and this is Accidentally Homeless, where survival has jokes, rock bottom has wheels, and the scenic route goes straight through hell. This episode, we learn the hard way that thinking you've got homelessness figured out is exactly how homelessness reminds you who's in charge. Newsflash, it wasn't our bitch. We were its bitches. So there's this point that you reach where shock has died. It's buried and no one bothered to hold a funeral. And that's where we were, mid-adjustment and neck deep in the mechanics of this life. So we'd left Homeless Rookie Edition in a shallow grave and leveled up to Homeless Pro Max Edition. I mean, you couldn't tell us shit about homeless nothing because from where we were standing, we knew it all. We were there to rebrand homelessness because whoever thought that homelessness was a disorganized mess hadn't met us yet. So chaos became strategy. The car stopped being a car, and it became a structure divided into zones. So the dashboard was our lookout station. The front seats, our cockpit and operational base. And the gap between the front and back seats became our kitchen and storage space. Home edited and packed like Khloe Kardashian's pantry, minus the label maker stickers, of course. Now the back seats stayed empty. Its job was to make sure that it never gave away that we lived in our car. And the trunk? Organized better than an Amazon warehouse on Black Friday. Because under no circumstances were we opening it and having all of the contents stage a jailbreak and embarrass us. So food became a tactical operation. What didn't spoil? What didn't need cooking? What could we eat without drawing attention? And most important, what kept us fed longer? So we had tuna for protein, whole wheat bread for fiber because homelessness is murder on the bowels, and peanut butter because it had the shelf life of a camel crossing the desert. Now the trick was to keep the whole wheat bread cool and away from moisture, and then it had some giving to give. Bananas bought loose every morning, and a tuna can drained at dusk when the parking lot was empty and no one was watching under the side of the car door, and that kept us full for the night. Was it cringe? Hell yeah, it was cringe. But reaching our protein goals were facts. We basically survived on bananas, peanut butter, bread, and tuna, and lots of water. Not too much to need to pee all day, but if we did, I mean, we parked right next to the bathrooms. Did we survive? Yeah. Was a meal ever hot? Absolutely not. Mornings were timed, exits were calculated, and every movement was intentional. I mean, we knew the drill. We knew how this worked. And we figured that we could do this for an extended period of limited time. I mean, acceptance was necessary, but we flat out refused to confuse right now with the rest of our lives. So we figured that if we were going to stay in this dumpster fire for even a little while longer, the wing it, we'll figure it out as we go approach just, I wasn't going to cut it. We had 4 non-negotiable night rules. 1, always park in the light-ish, because too much light and we're exposed. Too much darkness and hello thugs. 2, always be invisible in max visibility. 3, worship your bladder, like a cult follower worships a cult leader. And 4, hoard toilet paper like it was our ministry, which translated to rolling off extra toilet paper in every bathroom we stepped in to provide for those times that we encountered a public bathroom that had none. Because let's be honest, right? When you have to choose between spending money on toilet paper or having money for a midnight coin-operated emergency bathroom trip, you choose the option where your bodily functions remain dignified. So walking around with pockets stuffed full of toilet paper became like a second personality. Miscalculate what time the free bathrooms closed at night, and if we were out of coins, we were literally shit out of luck for the night, which became pop a squat next to the car or hold it until morning. It was kind of like the broke bitch version of air traffic control. So you've got your free grocery store bathrooms closing at 6 p.m. But if we're low on fuel, we'd need to pee before then because the decent public beach bathrooms closed at 5 p.m. Now, we had the other grocery store closing at 8 p.m. But again, if our fuel was running on thoughts, that wasn't an option either. In this life, the sun goes down and your problems take off their wigs and their makeup, and what you're left with is a bunch of ugly problems staring back at you. Bathrooms disappear, windows stay shut, need air, carbon monoxide's your new best friend. You're locked in a car for 12 hours because getting out is the equivalent of RSVPing yes to your own murder. So here's some homeless facts for you. Daytime was safe, nighttime was the enemy. The time of day that the rest of the world powers down to rest was the time that we suited up for mental and physical warfare, courtesy of hypervigilance and being slaves to our bodily waste functions. The funny thing about building the perfect survival system is that it quietly convinces you that the problem has been solved, when it has so not been solved. Structure created order, and order, which is normally a good thing, only created the false reality of stability, which in this case could be compared to the exact same place where Ponzi schemes often find their downfall. It's not like the cracks appear all at once. You would think that a shit show would have the audacity to look you in the eye and tell you that it's coming for you. It doesn't. Instead, the cracks just arrive as tiny payments our bodies begin demanding in exchange for enduring every clever system that we built. The payoff for surviving was swollen ankles from sleeping upright, necks that needed resetting by an elephant chiropractor, and a mental state that quit before we opened our eyes. So I was small enough to fit perfectly in the back seat. The same could not be said for my giraffe-legged mom, who slept upright in the front seat and woke up in a body that hadn't clicked right since the mid-90s thanks to fibromyalgia. So why didn't I just sleep in the front seat? I don't know. I mean, I'm 5'1", she's 5'9", and we're sleeping in a car the size of a first-generation Mini Cooper. Can you imagine Melman, the giraffe from Madagascar, and Timon, the meerkat from Timon and Pumbaa, sleeping in a Mini Cooper? Melman in the back seat, Timon in the front seat. That makes no sense. Melman needs vertical space. I mean, you do the math. So all that preparation and ready to fight or flight at any moment comes to collect its payment on the body. Because basically, all that we've been doing this whole time is essentially just writing checks that our bodies can't cash. Turns out, we don't just need to survive. We need our bodies to cooperate in survival. Like when the problem is swollen ankles from sleeping upright and the solution is water retention pills. But that creates a new bladder filling problem that only creates a worse needing to pee problem on top of an already catastrophic bathroom problem. Or like when all the hypervigilance and anxiety causes me to enter into a codependent situationship with Xanax to function in the day and an energy drink at night to stay up and be extra alert so my mom could sleep. And while we're trying to figure out how to manage bodily functions in a life that doesn't accommodate them, there's the emotional crime scene that close quarters living leaves behind in a mother-daughter relationship. Now, to say that we argued would be like saying that the Titanic hit a snowflake. The physical fact is that when you share a space less than 2 meters wide 24/7, there is no escape. There is no reprieve. There is just stuck and frustrated together, always. Which meant that screaming matches, quiet screaming matches over stupid things like why a chocolate wrapper was thrown out when it clearly had some chocolate left to lick, existed. When you live in a car, it takes holy amounts of self-control to not reach over and strangle your favorite person in the world over a discarded chocolate wrapper. But we lived in a pressure cooker that would boil over into catastrophe until we'd break out into the kind of laughter that can only live in absurdity. I think because sometimes what doesn't kill you makes you laugh. Fear is like Beyonce, a multi-hyphenate artist who you end up asking, what can't the woman do? Back to fear. It can scare you, it can motivate you, or it simply exposes the uncomfortable truth of your vulnerability. So we're laying in our beds. It's around 10-11 p.m. We're on our phones, brightness low, away from the windows, about to drift off to sleep. When suddenly, a flashlight shines into the car, and there's a knock on the driver's side window. Fuck. My mom's alert. I'm alert. Fight or flight mode activated. And then the voice behind the flashlight asks if we're okay. I'm freaking out. I'm like, don't speak, don't breathe, play dead, but also run. My mom, who doesn't know how true crime works, answers yes. The flashlight stays on us for a moment, then it shuts off and the footsteps walk away. What the hell just happened? We're both just frozen, on the verge of cardiac arrest. Who was that? Are they coming back? Were they watching us? Did we just get marked for I don't know what? So, a few days later, we're just hanging out at the church parking lot, and this security company car pulls up next to us. And immediately, my paranoid self is like, oh my God, we're being arrested for living while homeless. So this security dude gets out, and he comes to us. He wants to know if we're okay. He's seen our car around, and he checked up on us the other night during one of his rounds, and he tells us he just wanted to check up on us because it's not safe for two women like us to be out here, and he'll always be around. He'll keep an eye out for us on his rounds. So, not a threat, not a predator, just a good human worried about two women alone in a car. Relief floods in, followed immediately by confusion, because we should feel safer now, but we don't, because we realize that we're exposed, and that is unsettling. So life goes on, and we find ways to cope, because that's one thing that life is always going to do, right? Is go on. Not solutions, just ways to get through. Our never-ending Wi-Fi problem gets a partial fix when I start playing coffee shop roulette, which is figuring out how to stretch a Wi-Fi connection long enough to get stuff done without investing too much financially. So some methods were above board and others, well, they were questionable at best. Like, how many times a week I could sit at one coffee shop and only order one cup of tea and sit there for 5 hours before it starts to look sus, or before I have to move to a different coffee shop where they don't know me. Or, if all else failed, get the Wi-Fi password during business hours and wait till nighttime, park right in front of the place, and then conduct my business at night when nobody's watching. Whatever. I did what I had to do. Or in the routines that kept us close to feeling normal. So every morning, I would find a quiet spot on the beach, grab my weights, and work out, because God forbid I was homeless and out of shape. My mom's ritual lived in beach walks and meditation. And that was where the parts of who we used to be lived, where we reminded ourselves that we didn't always used to live this way, and that this vortex of awfulness wasn't all that we knew. Because it's really easy to feel like you're Alice in Wonderland, just falling down an endless rabbit hole of homelessness, and like you never existed above ground. And what's worse is that you feel alone, like you're the only person in the world that this is happening to. And then we saw this family in an Audi SUV. It was a 60-something-year-old dad, adult daughter and son with their pit bull doing exactly what we were doing, living in their car. And they were just there for an afternoon. They were there for like 3 weeks. I mean, clearly they could have used some lessons on blending and not looking like pack rats, but they were living in their car. So we felt slightly less alone. Because, I mean, these people looked normal. They looked like they were functioning members of society. What was their story? What happened? And then we realized we were experiencing something that's so much bigger than us, even if we didn't fully identify with it. And for moments at a time, it felt like, okay, we're actually managing. But then, in spectacular fashion, homelessness hadn't collected its pound of flesh from us yet. And this is the thing. You never knew which way your dues were going to be paid to the repo man of homelessness. So it was around midnight, long after the town had gone to sleep, and we were on our way to make a last bathroom round at the coin-operated bathrooms. But on this night, my mom was complaining about the water she drank that was just sitting a little funny. I didn't think anything of it because, honestly, once your parent is north of 55, you kind of just get used to hearing complaints like, the water I drank isn't sitting right. Because at that age, I mean, does anything sit right anymore? So the plan was to go to the ATM, withdraw some cash, go to the BP garage, buy something small, get coins, and pee. 10 minutes tops. Now, the funny thing about 10 minutes is that when the body decides that it needs to expel evil from its vessel, it doesn't care about 10 minutes. Now is all that matters. So we get to the ATM, and my mom's like, Mika, something is coming. I don't feel good. I'm like, something? Can you elaborate? She's white as a sheet, doubled over, holding her stomach, like, just go. So I run to the ATM to get money. And of course, this is the night where the ATM decides to hold my card hostage. So finally, I get back to the car, and there is nothing in the world that could have prepared me for the carnage I walked into. My mom is upset, is an understatement. Her insides had redecorated the interior of our car. Just thoughts, feelings, past lives, and barf everywhere. My mom had just suffered the worst humiliation, and life had just repossessed every ounce of dignity she had had for her almost 6 decades on the earth. Her body had failed her so badly that we'll call it Barfgate. And me? I'm the kind of person whose sense of smell is equivalent to that of a dog's, and I barf at the sound of barf. there were no words left to be said and nothing left to do but take to the street and walk the 100 meters to the beach at midnight because I was done. My mom was done. And we were just collectively done. So I'm sitting on the beach with no fucks left to give. And behind me in the parking lot, my mom is conducting a forensic level car cleanup with every wet wipe, hand sanitizer, and water bottle that we have. And this is what's playing in my head. We have to keep going, and this too shall pass. The most comforting thought that I could come up with was, we have to keep going. Because that's what order returning to our world looks like. Order is desensitization from absurdity and madness. It's shock value diminished and gaslit to nothing. The hardest part of homelessness isn't learning how to survive. It's learning that survival will keep asking more of you than you ever thought you had left to give. At the end of the day, the human body likes a soft life. We used to believe that we could just keep writing checks that our bodies would cash. But it won't. I thought we'd hit rock bottom. We hadn't. Next time, hunger is king. And we start making life decisions with our stomachs. And common sense says, hasta la vista, baby.